Welcome back to the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel. My name is Emil Franchi, and Newcastle have finally, at long last, bowed out of the FA Cup in the quarterfinals to the holders, Manchester City, which is a real blow to our season and our ambitions once again. I'm joined today by 4 more guests on ExtraTyne. We've got Brian.
Hello.
Hello. We've got the Twitter sensation Shell.
Hi.
And we've also got YouTube sensation Brian there. No, not Brian. Sorry, no, I'm getting me through. You know what? I was thinking of Brian at the time. There's Ian is in the chat as well. Hi, Ian.
It's all right.
Yeah, just got the brr off the front there. Sorry, Brian.
60% the same as Brian.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Brian. I felt like I should have had more to sell about you there, but
next time, Emil.
Next time. We'll see how we go. Right, guys, I know that no one really wants to get into the nitty-gritty about what went wrong in this game, but it's one of those games where we expected it. We're not too sure. Ian, we'll start with you. What did you expect from this game?
I kind of expected what happened, really, if I'm honest, but I was disappointed with the way we started and lined up. I just think, I know you're playing Man City, who are one of the best teams in Europe, but at the end of the day, it just invited pressure on, and it was all Man City in the first half. And then when we switched it a bit in the second half, we did a little bit better. And I just kind of wish we'd maybe started that way in the first half and seen where it had got us.
Yeah. Brian, have you got any idea behind the logic of wanting to stay defensive in a cup game when goal difference doesn't matter? We've got league games which we're effectively safe in.
Yeah, it felt to me that we went backwards. For weeks we're on the stand saying, change formation, we need more of a presence in midfield. And I think the first half felt a little bit defeatist of try and contain them. And apart from maybe one stupid mistake, come half time, we may have actually felt a whole lot differently and forgot about it. But yeah, I think he just tried not to get beaten, keep tight early on. But yeah, it was dreadful to watch, if I'm honest.
It was the most uncomfortable half of football that I've ever seen. And I know that we sit back quite a lot. But Shell, when you saw the lineup, what was the thing that immediately jumped out to you? Were you worried by the change of Darlow, or was it something else that maybe made you think that it wasn't going to go to plan?
Well, I mean, it was still all of our regular players, and I don't think Darlow was really going to be the difference. I saw some people saying, "Oh, well, Dubravka would have saved it," but that's just ridiculous. Like, I don't know what the reason was for Darlow. I don't know whether it would have bothered any of the back four or would have made any difference. But ultimately, he's obviously not the reason that we lost the game. And I think he had most of the possession in the first 10 minutes. So.
Yeah, there is talk that Claudio Bravo was ordering a pizza at halftime and just going to sit in the stands for a bit. But Newcastle did have some changes. We saw a bit of a change in attack, certainly, and the second half we started to show that Man City could be taken down. Ian, did you spot any weaknesses in Man City in that second half?
Well, I think Carroll gave... I can't remember the name of the defender now.
I think it was Laporte.
Laporte, yeah. He really gave him something to think about. And, I mean, he was completely isolated for most of the game, but I did think Carroll did all right. It would have been nice to... Well, actually, I think what I was going to say about Carroll was I think he was unlucky to get booked, because I think the commentators were going on about 3 challenges, but, I mean, at least 2 of them were fair challenges, in my opinion. So, anyway, but he got booked. But... so I guess that was possibly the weakness, but we never really had enough support for Carroll to really truly get at them.
Yeah, it was a shame, and I did think that Andy Carroll was going to chin someone at one point if he kept getting the pressure in there. But I mean, Carroll showed some good strength. Is it players like that we needed on the pitch today, Brian, to drag us kicking and screaming into some form of attack? We had the Longstaff there, we had Carroll there, a bit of local pride going forward, do you think?
I think it wasn't down really one person. I think games like this, it's about the team and that work ethic. And, Man City are better in every single position than what we are. So I think just the second half for me was when we started to really give more of an effort and become physical and put some world-class players off their game. It just, unfortunately, timings and goals will probably come onto this in a little bit.
Yeah.
But certainly the second half started off the way that I wish it had started at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, it always seems like a bit too little too late. We saw some horrific stats, the 15 to 188 completed passes, the 15% possession. It was like a drinking game for everything that Newcastle shouldn't be doing. Shell, we'll start with the key moment, which undid a fair bit of the defending. Fabian Schär, was that just being off the pace, or is that something that he's fairly prone to?
I mean, we're obviously both massive lovers of Fabian Schär, so
I know.
Not that I'm mega defensive or anything, but I did actually think it was Manquillo, and I'm sure we'll come on to whether it did seem like it might be him given the rest of his performance for the game. But yeah, I mean, probably like everyone else will say, it's just a bit frustrating because you've managed to keep it out for 30 minutes odd, just literally by luck, skill, every limb going, and then we've just conceded a needless penalty. He knows that there's VAR, he knows it's a push with both hands, and I think it's just really frustrating. As a Newcastle fan, you think, look, we've probably accepted we'll lose to City, we've probably accepted that we're going to concede a few goals, but just to concede it in that way, I think it just felt a bit horrible.
Yeah, I certainly thought this game was going to be a bit like the exit in the Europa League. We didn't expect to do anything against Benfica, but at least we tried, and that was something that I was looking at. Obviously, the Bruce critics are out in force right now, and I think rightly so. Was this a case of tactics or just not trying at all, Ian?
That's
a good question. I don't think we were not trying. I just think it was. As Brian said, it was a bit negative way to approach the game, and let's be honest, the criticism of Bruce is justified in a lot of respects. I know over the last few weeks we've had a lot of chat about how well he's done in terms of points he's got us, but if we're brutally honest as fans, we've been quite lucky this season, I believe anyway, and I'm grateful that we have been. Don't get me wrong. But absolutely, there is questions about Bruce's tactical nous and approach to the games, in my view.
Yeah, Brian. I mean, I think the defence was fairly well drilled towards the start. Apart from the push that Schär had in there, do you think the defence had something to shout about going out of this game?
I think first half, it felt like we had like 6 across the back, 7 across the back at times, and it was still finding the way to them. So I think we kind of went to more of a zonal space, and I think we didn't really know what we were doing. I guess because space was tight, Man City didn't convert any of it, and we were forcing them out onto the wings. So yeah, they were resolute. They didn't concede, and I think for me, Schär was a second pushing him. So I think he'd already nudged him, and then he'd done it again.
Yeah. That was the problem, wasn't it?
Which was stupidity.
It was the second push that he would have probably got away with the first one, but the second one was two-handed, and it was absolutely brain dead, really.
Yeah, it's such a shame because like I say, it undid the work. The defence was fairly good. I would say Fernandes and Lascelles especially were in and amongst it, just kicking every ball away. Hayden was even chucking himself in there. There was a lot of chat about the central midfielders being non-existent for the best part of the first half. Shell, did you see them grow into the game at all?
Well, not really in the first half. It was just all so defensive, just Pardew-esque, parking the bus, all in our own half, so deep, and it's just relentless, isn't it? It's just like you can only take so much, and yeah, I just don't think he had the setup right with the midfield. They were all over the place, and I know we'll come on to talk about individual players, and I know there's already been some mention of the captain and his role, but I just felt like Lascelles, you need to make sure not everybody is ball watching. They've got to be marking somebody if you're going to play literally 5 feet out from the goal. Non-existent in the first half, not good enough.
Yeah. Brian, just to come back to you there, I know we mentioned the lineup, but if there was one player that you would have maybe had in the team at the start of the game that could have unlocked Man City a bit better, who would you have had in there?
I wouldn't necessarily say unlock. I think we'll miss Richie today, and I think he's someone who drives that team on, and I think after that first 10-15 minutes, I think he would have been someone who would be screaming, and I think Lascelles has pointed to him as he's the vocal one. He's the one that G's people up, and I think especially in a cup tie, I think not through ability, but I think presence and what he brings to the team and motivating people around him. I think Richie was a big miss for me.
Yeah, we've certainly seen Matt Ritchie prove his worth in the games that have come back, and I think we remember when he went off against Villa, everyone was just thinking, cup game, we need him there. Ian, Saint-Maximin today was cancelled out for the best part of the game. I know we saw a few glimmers where he was doing bits and bobs, but do you think that was more that we couldn't get the ball to him, or did City just make sure that he was out of the game?
Yeah, I mean, I think City just did a really good job on him. Obviously, he's our best player at the moment, and they nullified him basically. But that said, if Saint-Maximin wants to be the player we all want him to be, and that I'm sure he wants to be, he's got to find a way in games like this, and he's got to be a difference maker. But I'm not gonna criticise him for today. But his chances were limited, and he did what he could. He wasn't terrible, but the whole game for us wasn't amazing in an attacking sense.
Yeah. Right. Well, let's talk about the stomach churning moments. Dwight Gale comes on. Him and Joe Linton came on at the same time. Shell, was that a surprising move? I saw your tweet taking glasses off slightly. What did you think?
Looking back, probably not. But at the time, we have with Rafa been quite sensible and quite cautious. So I thought, well, yeah, no, fair enough. It's just a bit disappointing when you're going to bring on two strikers that it's, Gale and Joe Linton, and it's not necessarily their fault. I mean, Gale is just not had enough game time, so it's difficult. But yeah, I think it was a bit of a surprise, but it was also a bit like, well, go on then, but perhaps it's just a bit too late. Let's see.
Yeah, and we saw him score the other day, which was a tough shot actually against Villa. But this one, Brian, it was just there on a plate, and it's one of those. It's like Kane squaring it to Sterling in the World Cup semi-final. It's one of those moments where you think, what if? How long will we be regretting that one, or do you think that it might have still gone sour after that anyway?
It's probably quite pivotal in the timing of when it happened. It would have, after a good start of the second half, probably given us the impetus to go on and really get at them and maybe rattle them. Man City's quality's there. I think it would have still been a tough ask, but I guess in the cup, though, it's those type of moments that drive a team on.
Yeah. Ian, would you describe it as unacceptable? I've seen that word thrown about Gale's miss.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it was a sitter. He should be scoring that. If he's a Championship striker, you'd expect to be scoring that, and I think that's what he is. But I do think if we had have scored, if we had have equalised, you wonder what would have happened after. But I do think, would Man City have just turned it up a notch? And whereas I just think, like if there was a whole crowd there and we'd equalised, you just then you wonder, don't you? But in these games without crowds, I just suspect Man City probably would have just turned it up and probably found a way.
Yeah, we've seen it time and time again. I mean, I think it was the home game where it was 2-1 and we'd been 1-0 down early in the game. Rondon and Ritchie turning it around, and that sometimes you just feel like everything is in your favour in that one. Shell, do you think that the crowd situation has an effect on how we played today, or do you think it was purely just the ability was just too much for us to handle with City?
Well, I mean, the played-in crowd noises were quite a lot. I could only hear City chants, so that's ridiculous, isn't it? Did it make a difference? No, I don't think it would have. I think, obviously, the crowd being there in St James's would have been an incredible atmosphere, but I think Man City, it just showed today that they've just got much, much better players. Their passing was a different level, and I don't think, however brilliant we were as a crowd, it would have made any difference to the result.
I don't know, but then I don't know, because I think you look at the game against Man City in the league that we played when there was a full house, and then we did put the pressure on and we obviously got a result. So it's obviously one of those things you can never prove, but like I'm sure that home crowd advantage is a thing, especially in big moments.
Absolutely, because I mean it comes down to referee things as well, and we've seen that some refs haven't been as free firing with the cards and things like that. It's been quite measured, you might say. I want to talk about Sean Longstaff quickly, Brian. It's still not quite the player that we saw burst onto the scene, is it?
No. Don't kind of know where it went wrong for him. I think the injury he's just never really come back from that. I saw him run around a lot in terms of impact on a game. Not really that much, I'm afraid. Again, though, I think he was a strange choice for me. He's not been involved in anything since the restart. And to go into what Bruce was saying is, this is the most important game of the season. I don't think, was Bentaleb injured? Did he? I didn't see what happened
suspended,
to him.
actually. I think he was suspended from this one, yeah. So suspension for him. Shelby we were unsure of with the knock and stuff. But, I think it's one of them. Longstaff could have come out and had the game of his life. But, Hayden, I know, Shell, I'm keeping everything central midfield with you at the minute, but Hayden had another good game. He's been that player that we've seen time and time again. What stood out for you today when he eventually got going?
I think he was just quite solid in terms of, keeping an eye on what he was actually doing. I said earlier, the others, I felt like they were ball watching. I felt like he knew where his man was, and was quite solid, and was just a good balance of, going for the tackles and not just allowing shot after shot, but not being a bit reckless like Cher probably was.
Yeah. Ian, I know you've got a bit to say about Danny Rose, but I think we'll get into this now and go through some star players. Is that who you're nominating for yours, Ian?
Yeah, I think despite everything, I actually feel like we actually defended pretty well, actually. And I think Shell mentioned earlier about how it was really tight. And some of it was luck and some of it was good fortune, but you can't argue with the fact that we did actually defend pretty well. And for a stupid push to give a penalty away, we probably would have gone into half-time 0-0. And I think Danny Rose did a good job at left-back and or left wing-back, whatever you want to say. And he carried that on into the second half, actually, until he got substituted.
Well, he's got that big game experience, isn't it? And I think that's what I always think about with Rose, that despite his fitness or anything like that, or his age, Rose has had that experience in this type of game. He's playing at a very high level, Champions League games, FA Cup finals and stuff like that, or getting towards them. Yeah. Time and time again, we do see those flickers that he is, would you say, a class apart from defenders that we've had in the past?
I don't know. I'm not sure about a class apart, but I think he's definitely, he's come in for some stick, hasn't he, over the last couple of weeks since the Project Restart, I think because of some of the things he'd said during the lockdown. And then there was that picture of him that's, kind of made him look a little bit, let's be honest, he was a lot fitter than any of us are. But, he came in for a bit of stick for that. But actually, since he's played, I think he's done a good job. So that's kind of a mark of how good he is, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, a good game from Rose, and I think as the games go by, Rose is time and time again proving a few of those critics wrong. Brian, who are you having for this one?
I think good shout about Danny Rose, but Lascelles, I would say, equally as good. I think it's unfortunate that we're talking about defenders, but I think that shows Newcastle's contribution to today's game, unfortunately. But yeah, I think Lascelles for me, I think he looked more comfortable in the second half. And Newcastle looked better with four at the back. So, yeah, I think for me, Lascelles just...
Yeah, I'm jumping in with you on that one as well. I think that, as much as we quite would have liked Richie there shouting the stuff, Lascelles has got a certain quality to pick the whole team up. And I think that I've spotted Lascelles being at the forefront of every celebration. He was speaking to the ref a fair few times. He's just that calming presence, I think. He might not be the most gifted defensively, but I certainly think it's good having him there. And we've said that on a few of the other videos recently. Shell, who are you going for?
It's a tricky one, isn't it?
Feel free to go for the same, of course.
We were talking about this earlier, and we were saying, Rosso was saying, well, it should be Mahrez, because if he'd scored any more of his chances in the first half, we would have literally been like 6 or 7-0 down. But yeah, I agree. Hayden was pretty solid as well. And I thought, dare I say it, Joe Linton was actually very good when he came on, in that he was tracking back all the time. And I know that lots of us in the group had said, Andy Carroll, get him up front because he's very physical, but he just doesn't track back very much. And I feel like when we were, running so much, at least Joe Linton does actually try.
So I'm gonna press you for a name though. Who are you gonna settle on?
Individual performance.
Yeah. Star player for this one.
Lascelles.
Lascelles, right? Well, defensive, like you say, Brian. It's interesting that we are looking at that, but sometimes that's just the way it goes with Newcastle. But it was a very defensive performance. I know we mentioned it there just briefly about Mahrez, but City didn't actually look like they were going to score that often today. Do you think something was going wrong for them, Brian?
Isn't as horrible as it was to watch. I think that first half, the ball was out wide, so it wasn't really the most dangerous people who were in control of it. So I think what you see with Man City, though, is a patience, the ability to pass the ball. The one-touch football's sublime at times. Yeah. And I think they show the mentality of a winning team of they won't get rattled. You know, if it's minutes tick by, they believe in their own ability. So, yeah, I think it wasn't a frailty. I think they're just a patient football team. And
I must say that there was moments where there was like the 6-second rule, the Barca tactics were coming in. Every time Newcastle got the ball, you could almost count the moment that we were going to give that away. Ian, do you think that Man City are going to just take everything now and get the FA Cup done, perhaps get that elusive Champions League finally now that Liverpool have got the title?
I think they'll win the FA Cup. I can't see who's going to stop them there. The Champions League, who knows? I'm not, to be honest, I'm not even 100% sure who's left in the Champions League, to be perfectly honest, but I imagine that'll be a tougher ask for them. But they have absolutely got the ability to do it. I know that they've had a disappointing season by their standards in the Premier League, but like Brian's saying, I mean, they're one of the best teams in Europe without a doubt. And I think we've got to kind of remember that as fans as well, that yes, we can look at our performance today and criticise it, and justifiably in some respects, but we've also got to accept that we were playing a fantastic team who are really hard to play against, and losing to them is no disgrace.
Yeah. Shell, is this kind of a bad loss for a cup game, or would you like say that this is all right given the damage limitation?
Yeah, like, you know, as been said, it's not a disgrace. It's a bit frustrating for us because, you know, I feel like we're almost there with safety. There's obviously lots going on in the background, but this would have been a really, you know, the best time to have a run would have been Arsenal coming up next. So it is frustrating. But I think the only concern that I have on the back of it is the players, and I know a few have been mentioned on Twitter, that just didn't look like they cared or they didn't try. And I think there was a couple of occasions where the ball was there and no one ran for it, and that concerns me a little bit.
Does anyone think that that's down to fatigue though? And do you think that Bruce should have maybe switched it more against Villa so that some of the players were fresher for this game? It's easy with hindsight maybe, but
well, I was going to say that I think that a lot of fans would still say to focus on Bournemouth, even just because of the unpredictable nature of the bottom of the league right now. I think that given what we had left with this game, I'm far happier with the fact that we have effectively got safety from those first two games back, because I don't think I could face Newcastle in a relegation fight with that type of performance. If I'm being honest, I don't think that Newcastle would have gone on to win the cup. It would have been great to get to Wembley, but you just can't compete against any of the teams at the top when it gets to this stage of any competition. Brian, I don't know if you wanted to jump in with anything else about just seeing how far we might have gone.
I think we're probably fortunate to get to where we were. I think we're lucky in terms of draw. You're right. I think once you get down to the nitty gritty, you know, there's some really good teams in there. And even watching Chelsea today, I think, you know, there's some good football teams coming into form as well. So even Man United are having an uplift in fortunes. They seem to be playing a little bit better stuff now. So I think that for me, and the frustration for today, it's the cup. You just have a go, you know, and whether that's physically or anything, you know, it's a one-off game. And that's the only bit I feel a little bit robbed for. Of, you know, second half we showed that intent, but overall performance, I think we've got to be a little bit disappointed that, you know what, we didn't leave a few more marks on their players.
Yeah. Ian, did you have anything you wanted to say specifically about the fatigue thing? Was that something that was a concern for you?
No, it just kind of crossed my mind. I know that there was a bit of reaction to when Saint-Maximin was taken off and other players taken off. But, you know, they've played 3 games in a week. And maybe after the win against Sheffield United, I know what you were saying about obviously wanting us to be safe, and the point against Villa was great. But you just wonder whether, after getting the win against Sheffield United, whether Bruce could have maybe just rested a couple of key players, and then, as Brian said, maybe just have gone for it a bit more in this game, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah. Shell, looking at Manchester City, is that the team that you definitely think we could become if everything goes well with the takeover?
Yeah, but hopefully, like with the Longstaff brothers and a few more Geordies.
Yeah, just a few smatterings in there. It would be nice to see. I didn't want to end on a sour note, guys. I think we have to address the fact that this cup run has been a bit of a morale boost, I think, for Newcastle throughout the season. Brian, would you say that the statement that was mentioned at the start of the season about taking the cup seriously, has that been honoured with the time we've spent in it? Without counting the 3-month break, that is.
Yeah. I think certainly, because we've got further than we have for quite some time. So you've got to give Bruce credit for that, and the team for trying. I guess for me, we just failed slightly at the big hurdle of get at them and have a go. But I think the cup run's great, and I think Newcastle as a football club, certainly the other stuff's out the way for now until we're the richest club in the world. But yeah, it's nice to see a cup run, and just unfortunately we couldn't all be there today.
Yeah, it's nice to have one of those moments, that final reminder of just how bad we were before we go and win them all.
Yeah,
it's lovely, isn't it? But Shell, there's been some great moments in the cup this year. Is the one that stands out for you as like the lasting memory?
Well, I just think we should be proud of ourselves for getting this far. I didn't realise that it was quite so long. It obviously feels like forever, but since 2005. So I think we should just be proud of ourselves, as we've said, and also like looking at that second half and how much our team cost compared to theirs and who they had. They were bringing on substitutes arguably better than their first team. We should just be really proud of that. The second half, I have no complaints about. Apart from the missing the sitter.
It even hurts just to spit it out and say it, doesn't it? It's like the chance. Ian, have you got a particular highlights from this season's run?
I think it has to be the West Brom game, really. Just in general, the atmosphere from our fans, the fact I know it was close at the end, but we did sort of really put a good performance in that game. Whereas in the earlier rounds, we'd struggled to get past Oxford and Rochdale, but we did. I think just the West Brom game, I just thoroughly enjoyed as a fan. It was just a really good experience.
It's just certainly one that people would say was the most comfortable that we looked in any of those games. I think we were even worried about West Brom, weren't we? To the point that we thought that was going to be it after watching us struggle against Rochdale and Oxford via replays. For me, it's got to be Saint-Maximin's goal against Oxford that stands out. The hilarity of the celebrations that followed, the news reports, the way that Saint-Maximin jumped on it. That was when we really saw that we had a magical player in our possession, and just the way in which he took the whole team on. I know when the lads recorded it live in the pub and you saw the way that they just reacted to it, it was the perfect comeback, especially when we thought that Oxford were going to do the impossible. But it's been good. And do you think that might be it for the time being? I know that we're saying the takeover might happen, but in terms of looking to the future, Brian, do you think that shows that we can go a bit further in the cup? Certainly looking at that second half performance as well.
Yeah, I think we'd all love to live in a dream world. We'll have millions and millions to spend and challenge for league titles. But even if the takeover does happen, I think it's still a transition, and targeting cup competitions to develop and build a squad and a team that gets used to winning and being successful, I think would be the natural first step, I think, for us as a club.
Yeah. Shell, I keep coming to you for names here, but if you were to kind of pick one person who was the star man throughout the cup run, is there anyone who springs to mind for you?
That's a tough one. Without saying
I can hint with the top scorer with this one, because that's probably who I'd go for with Almiron.
Yeah, Almiron, it's been nice to see Saint-Maximin as well. Like, both of them have been really good, and it's been good to see them come on. I don't know if they feel slightly less pressure if it's a cup game, but it feels like a slightly different performance. So how many has Almiron scored?
I think it was 6, was it? I'll pop over to you with Almiron, and not with the answer for that one, but in terms of But in terms of just like discussing Almiron, I think we've seen his confidence come on leaps and bounds in this competition, and he's really pushed us forward.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think, it has, and like Shell says, it's felt a bit different, these cup competition performances, and I guess it's given him a chance to shine, maybe against teams that aren't quite as good quality, but it's all good confidence, isn't it? And we all want Almiron to do really well. We just want him to keep doing that in the Premier League. That's the next step for him. So, hopefully we can build on it.
We even saw some bits of Joe Linton. I know, Shell, you mentioned it there, but Joe Linton had a few moments in the Cup where that relief was taken off. Do you think it's been a good little area for these players just to boost themselves slightly?
Yeah, I mean, I've said before, I wonder whether for Joe Linton, especially, like the crowd not being there might take a bit of pressure off him. And obviously he's, scored very recently. So maybe it makes a difference. It's, it's really hard to say, but I feel like the Cup does give you an opportunity to be, show a bit more flair, and it's a bit less pressured, especially because of our position in the league. So it's been quite good. And I'm very excited by Joe Linton, Almiron and St. Maxim as well. Like, it would be nice to have a couple more players just to, not just have one of them up front, or, to make sure that there's enough of them in the box when they actually do get the ball up there.
Yeah, it was. It's been good fun, I would say, and certainly unexpected. Just to turn our attention to the next game, Brian, Bournemouth's going to be our first away game behind closed doors. Do you think that that's going to have any impact on how we play?
I think it'll be a really interesting game because Bournemouth are fighting for their lives now. So I'd like to think that an industrial kind of Newcastle team, or at least a match for them. And I think with anything now where Newcastle have got themselves into is a position where we can be patient in games. And I think, with the pace of Almiron, St. Maximum, there's an opportunity there to hit teams on the break. And I think the pressure should be more talent for them than us. And we should go into these games with a little bit more freedom and hopefully get the expression back that was lacking today in long periods of the game.
Yeah, do you think that's achievable, Ian? We've got Bournemouth and West Ham, two very winnable games, as me and Andy predicted on a podcast. Do you think that these are the games where we can now say, right, I know we cocked it up against Man City, but we do care?
Oh, definitely. I mean, Bournemouth have looked pretty awful since Project Restart as well. So we've got to go there looking to win. I don't think it will be easy because they will be fighting for their lives. But yeah, you've got to look at Bournemouth as an away game where you can get at least a point, if not all three. And yeah, West Ham too. They're in a dire situation. And again, it's unlikely we're going to win both of those matches. But you've got to be confident that we can come close to doing that.
Yeah. Shell, did you see anyone today who maybe earned a place back in the squad, or would you see a massive overhaul from the lineup today? Do you think that there'll be anyone who might get a place against Bournemouth?
I thought, was it Lazar we brought on? I thought he looked quite bright. I missed my little Richie and Shelby. I missed them in the midfield because I feel like they just would have got some passes together, and like Matt Ritchie would have just shouted everyone to calm down a little bit, which we just needed a bit. Nice to see the Longstaff brothers back. I think they probably would get a place, but like the guys have said, it's tricky because both of those teams, Bournemouth and West Ham, are very beatable, but we seem to have some mad unpredictable games against them. Goals galore usually against West Ham. The last Bournemouth away game was absolute chaos. We scored, I think, at half time, but all the Geordies had all gone down to get a drink, and then just started climbing on the shutters, so it all got shut down. And that was just an absolute chaotic experience. So it would be nice to get a point, but like you say, when you're fighting for your life, it's hard to know.
Yeah, and I think that what we'll end on now is again another trip down memory lane. I know we've mentioned that this cup run has been rather fantastic, but Brian, if you were to pick one, and we'll go through each of yours. Brian, if you were to pick your favourite moments in the FA Cup for Newcastle over the years, which one would it be?
Ooh. You could have pre-warned us about this one, couldn't you? That's a really tough one. I remember, I think it was a semi-final against Tottenham, and I think we scored. I can't remember who scored. I'm going to shoot myself after coming up here. Yeah, I think it was when it was a tight game, and I was away with work at the time, and I was in Milton Keynes, and I remember trying to find this pub to watch it because there wasn't any TV in the building, and as Newcastle scored, I jumped up and screamed, and loads of Tottenham fans turned around and looked at me. So, yeah, I think probably being there and just celebrating stuff, yeah, I think that was quite good. There's probably a way better one than that, but I can't think on the spot.
Live to tell the tale with that one. Shell, have you got any happy memories of Newcastle's past ventures in the Cup?
Well, I mean, none recently, to be totally frank with you. I think it's
not about when we lost to Stevenage? Come on, I mean, that was a great game.
Yeah, there's been some pretty terrible ref decisions as well. I think for me, I think this has been fantastic because I feel like we've got a manager, you know, whatever you might think about him, that actually gave us a run in it, which has been, you know, really, really nice. I'm sure you've done a bit of research though, so you could probably tell us your favourite one. I've gone through the archives. Looks like we haven't won it since like the 1900s. So.
Well, for me, I'm too young to have remembered any of the Wembley trips, and not that they were that memorable, but
feel old.
Yeah, my memories of Newcastle in the FA Cup was probably seeing them get as far as the semi-final, where we got absolutely thumped by Man United, and I don't think I remember that exactly. Yeah, I think that was the game where. Wasn't that the season where Kluivert scored for us, and then they used that goal against Chelsea in the film Goal, or something along those lines? That there was something where that game against Chelsea was used as footage for Goal. I think that was the FA Cup game where Kluivert scored a header and got us through, but I'm not too sure. Ian, you seem like you've got like a top 5 ready for me here. But,
I've got so many because I'm old.
yeah. Well, hit me up with one if you want.
I'll give you two.
Go on.
So Blackburn is always one of my favourite grounds to visit as an away fan. I really miss going to Ewood Park. And there was a cup game in about the year 2000, I think it was. And it was the game, if you remember, where Shearer scored twice. And he did 2 really funny celebrations. The first one, he did a kind of thing to the crowd like that. And then the second one, he just fell over in front of all us lot. But behind the goal, we had the whole stand behind the goal. And we won 2-1. And Shearer scored the winner. And that was just unbelievable. I think it was like the 4th or 5th round. It was just brilliant. And then the second one was actually at Wembley. And I know we've never had really good experiences at Wembley. But we've had one good experience at Wembley, and that was Rob Lee's goal against Chelsea in the semi-final in 2000. And I have never, and I was talking about this today on Twitter with some people, I have never, ever celebrated a goal you talk about limbs everywhere. It was unbelievable. It was just sheer joy. It was fantastic.
Yeah, I thought you were about to say, just when you were talking about age and stuff like that, I thought you'd be like going to be talking about the 50s there.
No, not great
moment. I thought we were going to go well back in time. Guys, we could talk about what could have been and the things that have gone in the past, but we now have to look towards the future. We're going to hopefully stay up, and it's been a good laugh. I think that's the main thing we can take from this cup run. It didn't quite get there in the end in true Newcastle fashion, but thanks for joining us today, guys. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Cheers.
All Thank you. Premier League then.
That's it, Shell. That rallying cry that we need there from down south. Thank you so much, guys. This has been ExtraTyne. Keep watching the Gallagher Shots YouTube channel, and we'll be back very soon. Cheers, guys.
Thanks.